Hey guys, Mr. McSweeney here, and I'm going to talk to you about imperatives in Spanish. Now, imperatives is just a fancy word for commands, so don't let that word get you too confused or anything like that. If you're struggling with the word imperative, just think of if you tell somebody something and it's imperative that they do that, then you're giving them a command. So that's what we're going to look at with Spanish, and we're going to be focusing on usted and ustedes commands. When do you use imperatives in Spanish? It's a little different because in English we use them so much more frequently. In Spanish, you're going to see a lot of imperatives being used in settings like a classroom or like an official, like a police officer talking to you, right? Give me your license or your passport, things like that. That's where you're going to see it in those types of formal situations. Maybe your parents giving you commands, right? Go clean your room, things like that. It's not so much used like we do in English. So let's take a look at how we use imperatives in English. We basically use them for anything. We talk very commandingly, if that's a word, commandingly in English to our friends, animals, our teachers, right? Even as a student, you say, check my homework, right? You give commands to your teacher, which in other parts of the world, you just wouldn't do that because of the level of formality. We lose a little bit of that because we don't have usted and ustedes, where in Spanish you have tú and vosotros for your informal settings. So just keep in mind that Spanish is slightly more formal. Instead of commanding somebody to do something, you're going to ask in a very nice way if they can do it or if they will do it. So let's look at the difference between an affirmative and a negative command. This is really simple. An affirmative command is telling somebody to do something, and a negative command is telling them to not do something. So for instance, pass me your homework would be an affirmative command, and don't talk would be a negative command. As a side note, you are not going to use the subject pronouns when doing commands. So for instance, like in English, we don't say, you don't do that. The you is implied. So it's the same thing in Spanish. You won't say tú, usted, vosotros, or ustedes. Okay, so let's take a look at how to form these usted and ustedes commands. It's fairly easy, so let's go step by step. So for the affirmative usted command, let's take a verb like comer. I don't know when you're going to command somebody to eat, but you might do it, but let's just take a look at that verb. The verb comer, if we were going to tell somebody to eat and we were going to do it in a formal setting, you see why we're not going to use this that often, just kind of a weird setup. All you have to do is swap your normal endings in the present tense. So for usted, your conjugated verb for comer is come. Now, if you're going to do a command, you swap the E for an A. So it becomes coma. It's also the same in the ustedes form. So instead of saying ustedes comen, if I was going to look at all of you students and say, eat, I don't know why I would do that, but if I was, then all I need to do instead of saying ustedes comen, I would say coman, and I would put the A instead of the E. So you're just swapping out that E and A. So for the negative commands, all you have to do is take your affirmative form of it and put a no in front of that. I know this is kind of weird. Again, we don't really use commands that much in Spanish, but you do need to be aware of these. And this is only for usted and ustedes commands. So start looking around at those and start playing around with these commands. Have a little fun with it, and good luck.